Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of the Untethering Shame podcast. I'm your host, Kira Wackett. It's been a few weeks since we kicked off our time together. How are we doing? I know it's a lot, right? To start really thinking about shame more deeply, to realize not only what it is, but exactly how it's showing up in your life. When you learn about a concept or idea, it's easy to write yourself out of that story. Oh, that's not what this is, or I don't feel that way. It's much harder to do that when the context is built around it. It becomes more than a definition, but a storyline, a character, and you begin to see yourself fill in the details of that character's story. I do that. Or it's like she's in my head. Or simply, that's it. That awareness is uncomfortable. Being seen in such a vulnerable way triggers every one of our avoidant, deflective, and shame-driven responses. Our biggest fear is in being seen as weak or less than. But that reaction inside of you is rooted to the exact point we're making. You feel that pull because you're feeling shame. And there's no threat to your worth in this space. I'm not trying to expose you or make you look weak. I'm simply trying to see you and be seen. This is the only way to dismantle the pressure hold shame has us under. So as hard as it is, as overwhelming as it feels, stay here. Keep exploring. Allow that curiosity to exist. I'm right here with you, and we're going to keep moving forward together. We talked previously about the 3 shame defenses: moving towards, moving away, and moving against. These defenses are your body's line of defense to protect you from being rejected, forgotten, or deemed unworthy. Today, I want to explore another facet of our shame defense system: the drama triangle. Now, the drama triangle was first developed in the 1960s by Stephen Cartman and looked at the different interpersonal positions we can find ourselves in when we're caught in our anxiety, shame, and pain. It looked at the effects of dysfunctional social attachments and identified that in a given interpersonal situation, people often play one of 3 roles: the hero, victim, or villain. Someone is at fault, someone has been wronged, and someone has to fix it all. Now, before we keep going, I do want to point out that I actually really dislike these terms: hero, victim, and villain. I think for different reasons. Obviously, we can see how victim has been used in a way that I think has been oppressive for many people. And I didn't develop this theory, this model, or the terms associated with it. So I don't have the right to change those terms when I am referring to something that is owned by somebody else. So instead, what I'll say is, as you hear me describe these terms, change them to what feels good to you. Now, since its inception, the drama triangle has been used to explain and deepen our understanding of the cycles of abuse, insecure attachments, racism and systemic oppression, codependency, and more. In the early 2000s, it was even used as the basis for a new model called the empowerment dynamic, or TED for short, which focused on how we can assume new roles in our interpersonal dynamics. Now, the more I learned about this model and concept, the more I saw parallels to the responses and positions we take in our lives due to shame. See, shame is best friends with your ego, and your ego's job is to make sure you're seen and don't get lost in the shuffle. It's the part of your brain that yells, "But what about me?" The combination of these 2 forces then leads you to believe I have to be seen, but don't have much, if any, worth to be seen for. Therefore, you turn into your roles in others' lives. You have to bank your story on how you show up in theirs. And as such, you make yourself the problem-saturated, gooey center other people's stories get hooked to. The result is a constant shapeshifting between 3 roles: the hero, victim, and villain. As the hero, you assume responsibility for everything. It's your job to do it all, be it all, and handle it all at all times. Not because you think you're better, but because you believe this is what you have to do to be seen as equal in the room. You have to be the one to pick up the slack. You have to be the ultimate yes person at work. You have to make space for others' pain because you can, and they need you. Something needs to be done. Something has to be fixed. Someone needs something. And the someone that needs to do it is you. Now let's think about the villain role. Here, we believe that anything that goes wrong, real or perceived, is on us. You're the problem. You did or didn't do something. Someone's upset? That's on you. The project didn't deliver at the level of expectation. You should have known better and have stayed late to make sure that this didn't happen. You are or aren't enough of something. Something about you is flawed, broken, failed, or flopped. And then third is the victim role. This one shows up in opposition to the others, but still is really an extension of this over-personalization that we're seeing. See, what happens is we spend all of our time doing and being, or trying to do and be, everything for other people. And when they fall short in any way, we take it personally. If they don't remember to grab bananas at the store, it's because they don't listen to you. If they don't ask you about your day, it's because they don't care about you. Or if they don't give you what you need in the moment that you need it in the exact specifications that you have in your brain ready to go, you fall into a spiral of, I do it all for everybody else and no one ever shows up for me. Why can't someone be there just once? You can see that these roles aren't glamorous, and they work to keep us stuck in that not enough narrative. So what's the impact over time? Well, the more that we assume one of these positions, the more we muddy the waters of power and control. We're responsible for everything, and yet we can't control anything. And what this does is create the perfect feedback loop for shame, negative self-talk, and anxiety. So if we think about this, what ends up happening is we fall into one of two buckets, having no control or trying to over control. So first, let's think about the under control bucket. If we believe that we have no control over what's happening to us, how someone treats us, our boundaries being eroded, getting stuck in traffic, we can't be responsible for making the change. This is everyone else's problem, and we're just being dumped on. Now, while this isn't a place that feels good, there is comfort here. Because complaining, it's easy. Being exhausted, overwhelmed, feeling dumped on is convenient. They all require little energy output and keep us sipping on a cocktail of avoidance, loneliness, and resentment. Absolution is the road with less resistance, and in so choosing, we deepen our position in a life of fine. We opt for the predictably crappy lifestyle and perfect our ability to point out all the ways everyone is letting us down or leaving us behind while assuming a position of no control. Now let's flip-flop and talk over control. So in tandem here, if we focus on trying to fix or control things we ultimately have no control over, such as if someone else is upset with you, whether or not someone notices or is grateful for something we did, or if people like us, then we give ourselves the illusion of trying to fix and control things. But in reality, we're only putting our energy into things we never had our business to be in anyways. And in turn, we actually have no control or power over those outcomes and cycle right back. We find ourselves in the same pond of the world is happening to us, the role of martyrdom worn well. Now, this is the second nail in the coffin of living a fine life. Everything is futile. Nothing will ever be better. No one appreciates me, and I'll coast through even though I am unhappy, lonely, and resentful. Now, both sides of this lead to a position of feeling powerless, because rather than getting clear on what is and isn't in our control, our fear, anxiety, and shame force us to keep banging our heads against immovable objects we can do nothing about and leave us fearful of trying anything different. The only way to shift out of this control trap is to let go of all three roles, to no longer be the hero, victim, or villain. And no, you can't just keep one. You can't keep trying to be everything for everyone else, i.e. the hero, without also playing the parts of the villain and victim. That's just how the scales tip. You can't shift your relationship with control if you keep assuming responsibility for things that aren't yours. Now, the next step in dismantling this system is to clarify when and how you assume these roles and the relationship it gives you with control. So as we wrap for today, I want to encourage you to think about where, when, and with whom do you use them? Does the context matter? How has it been influenced by the cultural, familial, and social norms you've observed or been a part of throughout your life? And what fears do you have about letting them go in your daily life? You can also reflect on your relationship with control in general. Do you like being in control or handing things off to others? What parts of your life do you feel like you have control over? And where do you feel like you're going without? Now, I know this is a lot, and it's hard to keep peeling back layers without a clear and definitive path to what solving this problem is going to look like, and how do we heal from this realization and depth of our pain and shame. Just stay here with me. Insight is the first step to designing a meaningful and sustainable action plan. And that's the part we're in right now. Insight building, exploration, curiosity, knowledge gathering. And it's time we stop allowing our shame to try and convince us that we need to be anywhere but here and that we can't handle being anywhere but here. So as you take this time to process what's coming up for you, be sure to drop me a note, leave me a voice memo, answer one of those Q&A questions. However you want to reach out to me, let me know what's coming up for you and how I can continue to support you. If you have questions you want me to answer on the show, tell me. If you've got ideas for topics you want me to cover, tell me. For now, let's just be in this chaos together. Again, we're not trying to solve things. We're just trying to be in the process of it all. And I will see you back here next Sunday.